It was a typical Tuesday meeting, 10 people in the room. I had just presented my project after spending 5 weeks studying it, revising it, adjusting every single detail. When I finished, a colleague, someone who had never contributed anything, leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms and said, "Honestly, I don't think this was well thought out." Everyone looked at me, and in that moment, with all that weight pressing down, there was only one thing I wanted to do: defend myself at all costs. I did exactly what anyone would have done, except Machiavelli. I explained myself again, laid out my reasoning, made my case for why I was right. But the more I talked, the worse it got, because nobody was listening to what came out of my mouth anymore. They were watching how I was. And the guy who had attacked me, he didn't say another word. He just sat there, arms still crossed, completely blank. In that moment, I realized he was winning, and winning by a landslide. For years, I thought the problem was what I was saying, that I needed better arguments, faster comebacks, but the problem was never what I said. My name is Kobe, and today I'm going to show you why defending yourself is the worst thing you can do when someone attacks you, and what Machiavelli, Epictetus, and Nietzsche understood about this centuries before any internet guru. What comes next will change how you carry yourself in any room with other people. Think about a courtroom. Who has to explain themselves? The defendant. The judge doesn't explain anything. The judge listens, weighs, and decides. That's the whole principle, right there in front of us. When you defend yourself against someone who just attacked you, you're unconsciously taking on the role of the defendant, and you're handing the other person the role of judge. You flipped the entire power dynamic without even realizing it. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. He was a diplomat in Florence. He spent his life watching princes and popes operate up close. And while everyone else was talking about virtue and how a leader should be fair and just, Machiavelli was studying how power actually works, not how it should work, how it really works. And in The Prince, he said something that scandalized the world. It doesn't matter what you are. What matters is what others believe you are. In the real world, whoever controls perception controls the outcome. And here's the idea that rewired my brain. The moment you defend yourself, you lower yourself. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if the accusation is absurd, unfair, or completely made up. The second you start explaining, justifying, proving, you're telling the world, I acknowledge that this person has the authority to judge me, and I need their approval to feel legitimate. People don't analyze arguments, they read behavior. Nobody is listening to your words. They are watching whether you hesitated, whether your voice shook, whether your body tensed up. This happens unconsciously. You can have the most brilliant argument in the world, but if you looked desperate while making it, you've already lost. But that raises an honest question. If defending yourself is so destructive, why do we do it automatically? Why does every instinct in our body push us to react, explain, prove? If we know it makes things worse, why can't we stop? This is where a man who lived almost 2,000 years ago comes in, and who understood this better than any modern self-help guru. Epictetus, a Greek Stoic who was born a slave, literally a slave. His owner once broke his leg as a form of torture. And even in that condition, perhaps because of, Epictetus developed an idea that sits at the center of everything I'm telling you. He said, it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When someone attacks you, the attack is external. It's outside your control. You can't stop someone from coming at you. But your response, that is entirely within your control. And when you react by defending yourself, what's actually happening isn't a strategic response. It's an emotional reaction dressed up as logic. You're not trying to convince the other person. You're trying to convince yourself. You're trying to resolve an internal discomfort. That awful feeling that maybe, just maybe, the accusation has a grain of truth in it. The need to defend yourself doesn't come from the unfairness of the accusation. It comes from the insecurity of the person hearing it. I go through this every time someone questions something I've done. My first instinct is still to explain, to lay out the process, the reasoning, the rationale. And every time I jump to that too fast, I realize afterward that I wasn't defending my idea. I was defending my ego, and a wounded ego doesn't argue well. A wounded ego begs, and in the end, the ego is going to make me lose. Epictetus proposed something radical for his time, and it's still radical today. Before you react, ask yourself, is this person's opinion of me within my control? What can I actually do with their opinion? Act with wisdom. And wisdom, more often than not, is silence. So Machiavelli showed what happens on the outside. You lose the perception of power. Epictetus showed what happens on the inside. You react from insecurity, not strategy, but neither of them explained the most unsettling part. Why we were wired to function this way in the first place. Why does society train us to justify ourselves? That's Nietzsche's territory, and he has no patience for half measures. Friedrich Nietzsche, probably the most misunderstood philosopher in history, had an unsettling ability to see what nobody else wanted to look at, and he developed a concept he called master morality versus slave morality. Not literal slavery, two fundamentally different ways of operating in the world. Master morality is the morality of someone who acts from within themselves, who defines their own values and doesn't need anyone's validation to feel legitimate. This person doesn't explain themselves. They act. Slave morality is the morality of someone who defines themselves through other people's reactions, who needs the world to recognize their goodness, their competence, their innocence. This person lives in reactive mode. And every time someone challenges them, they feel the need to prove who they are. When someone accuses you of something and you immediately jump to defend yourself, you're operating in reactive mode. You're saying, without words, I need you to recognize that I'm good. And that act of seeking validation is exactly what hands your power over to someone else. And we operate in this mode all the time. I include myself in this. From school, where you were taught to explain every answer, to work, where you're evaluated every quarter. Why did you do that? Why didn't you do this? Explain yourself? Convince me. We grow up believing that if we don't explain, we're guilty. Nietzsche invites you to notice that conditioning and to decide whether you want to keep obeying it. Now, here's the part that connects everything. And it's the most counterintuitive of all, because what I'm about to tell you shouldn't work. But it does. The real shift is not simply staying silent. Anyone can go quiet out of anger, pride, or contempt. That's not power. It's just another form of reaction. The real shift happens when the silence comes from a different place. Silence only works when it's not an escape. It works when you understand that the accusation says more about the person making it than about the person it's aimed at. And here's where something happens that looks like magic. but is pure social mechanics. When you don't defend yourself, the person who attacked you becomes uncomfortable. They expected a fight. They expected you to take the bait. They expected a reaction, because your reaction is their ammunition. And when it doesn't come, they have to fill the silence themselves. So what do? They keep talking, they repeat themselves, they exaggerate. And the more they talk, the weaker they look, because everyone in the room is watching. And what they see is someone attacking a person who is completely calm. And calm in any social setting reads as strength. When I understood this, I decided to change my approach. I put it on my calendar, exactly 27 days to test this new way of showing up. A guy at work publicly questioned one of my decisions. My instinct was to explain, but I stopped. I didn't respond. I just looked at him and waited, and he kept talking, and I watched it happen in real time. The people around us started looking at him strangely, not at me, at him, because he was reacting and I wasn't. It worked exactly as planned. The person who attacks in public almost never wants the truth. They want a reaction. They want you to take the bait. They want an audience. When you deny them that, their whole play falls apart. Because an aggressor without a reaction is an actor without an audience. And an actor without an audience stops performing. Write this down. An actor without an audience is a total failure. And there's a final paradox that might be the biggest lesson of all. When you defend yourself, you're alone. It's you against the accusation, you against the world. But when you don't defend yourself, when the room sees someone being attacked and staying calm, whole, and present, something shifts. Other people feel the impulse to defend you. They say, that was uncalled for. He didn't deserve that, without you asking, without you prompting them. Because silence with presence creates something no explanation in the world can create: respect. And respect builds allies, and allies are more powerful than any argument you could have built on your own. So I'll leave you with 3 filters. First, when you're attacked, freeze. Before you react, 3 seconds, just 3. That gap is enough for your brain to move out of reaction mode and into choice mode. 3 seconds is the difference between responding and reacting. And the person who responds chooses the game. The person who reacts plays someone else's game. Second, ask yourself, do I want to be understood, or do I want to hold my position? Those are different things. Sometimes explaining matters in a relationship built on trust, in an honest conversation with someone you genuinely respect. But in public, in front of someone who wants an audience, explaining is handing over control. Third, remember that the need to defend yourself is learned. Nobody was born needing to justify themselves. It was installed in you by school, by family, by society at large. Machiavelli, Epictetus, and Nietzsche, each in their own era, each in their own context, arrived at the same conclusion by completely different paths. Whoever justifies themselves submits. Whoever stays whole forces the world to reposition itself. Now I want you to picture a scene that's already happened to you, but this time you respond differently. The same attack, the same room, but this time you say nothing. You look, you wait, you breathe. And when you speak, if you decide to speak, it's not a defense, it's a choice. Because real power was never about having the best response. It's about not needing one. Leave a like and let me know what you thought in the comments below. My name is Kobe, and this was After the Cave